All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with our work session. As has been published, we have two different subjects we'd like to get through tonight. So I think it's going to be imperative that we capitalize on every minute we can get. So we'll start with roll call.
Benson.
Here.
Brunick.
Here.
Hanoff.
Here.
Johnson.
Present.
Minor.
Here.
Schramm.
Here.
Villanueva.
Present.
Weber. Here. Mayor Mosier.
Here.
City Manager Leon.
Here.
City Attorney Denherter.
Here.
All right, moving on, we do have public appearances underneath the work session, and this is a time for anybody that wants to appear in front of the in front of the commission on something not on the work session agenda. All right, seeing no movement, then we'll go ahead and get started. And I would say to the commission, as you're aware, we're really hoping to get through the Yankton County EMS study update tonight in our work session, and also a Summit Activity Center update. So I'm going to try to hold both groups to about 25 minutes. I don't want to go right up to 7, just so that we have time to readjust and get ready for the 7 o'clock regular city commission meeting. So we'll get started first with the Yankton County EMS study. And I believe Eric is here to present to the commission tonight. So I'll let him make his way to the podium. And again, Eric, if you just kind of can keep time in mind as you're presenting, and I'm sure the commission will have questions. So I would like to say 30,000 foot view at this point would be great, but if you have to dip down into 15 or maybe even land at some point, feel free to do that. The time is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Mosier and City Council members for the opportunity to do this. Once again, Yankton County would like to thank you for partnering with us on this endeavor. There were a lot of things that I talked to the city manager, Amy Leon, about sending this out. It's between a 70 and 80 page document, so there's a lot. So hopefully you filled your weekend full of knowledge of what Yankton County EMS does. Unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of data that really surprised me in any of this, because we can look at a lot of these statistics. We can look at some of the projected growth for Yankton, which is a good insight for me with being fairly new to this. Honestly, the couple items that they came up with to identify is, number one, we needed to fix our billing, which we actually started that process with last July, August, and we're finishing implementing the in-house billing. And so they weren't really able to pull a lot of data because that information just isn't put together off of our current billing team. It's going to take about a year for them to have a really good grasp. And so in another year, more than happy to present on where they're currently sitting financially. However, I'd like to point out, I've reported to the county commissioners, there was an article that came out in GEMS, which is the Journal for Emergency Medical Services. 69% of EMS agencies in the country are running at a loss. To fix that, you would have to fix Medicaid and Medicare. And I don't know the answer to that one, being government funded. So that would be a real huge uphill lift. Knowing that they run at a loss, currently our statistics, we're running about 38% reimbursement rate for anybody that we bill for Medicaid and Medicare, which is the bulk majority of our payers, which you would actually be able to see in that data. The other thing that they were looking at is long-term sustainability funding for the system. As we had approached the city council prior, 92% of our calls are within inside Yankton city limits. And we ran 3,209 calls, depending on which data source that you pull. So Yankton gets to utilize us the bulk majority of the time. But their finding was actually looking at a tax district. There's currently 7 ambulance districts in the state. I was in conversation with a couple of the county commissioners this morning just to follow up and prepare for this evening. So the ambulance districts in our state are the community of Iroquois, the community of Kimball, Parkston, Lake Norden, Tripp Ambulance, Keystone, and Wagner Lake Andes. I know that Parkston, for example, they posted in their Facebook account, they had 139 calls last year. That's a slow month for us. So it's not really comparing apples to apples. With that being said, a couple of their numbers, I would be curious to know how they pull. Data is always skewed a little bit. There's a lot of data and tables that you folks are welcome to reach out to me if you have any questions. I was actually pulled numbers this afternoon just to kind of compare, and their numbers showed slightly less for us for crew number 1 out. We're showing 5.76 based off the same numbers, so I'm not sure how they calculated those quite differently. But then our second crew out was 0.76. They showed almost 200 more calls a year annually, so I was kind of curious to see how they pulled that data or extracted that information. But still, we're averaging almost 6 calls a day currently. Our UHU, which is what most systems look for unit utilization, we're at a 0.24. As of last week, I wish they would have left the data sit alone and not mess with it. Unfortunately, I opened my big mouth and I said, utilizing ambulances and crew, I think it skews the numbers because we were sitting at a 0.31, which is really good for most ambulance agencies, and it dropped us to a 0.24. However, in one of their previous reports, they said of like-sized communities, they typically see about 0.20, so our utilization is actually a little better than some of the comparables that we would see. We still have some little bit of room for improvement, but everybody does. So with a 30,000-foot view, unless there's questions, I will cap it at time. We also have Mr. John Marquardt, who's one of our county commissioners, who came to support me this evening if he would like to address any questions that I may not be able to answer.
A question. One of the things I was looking on figure 26, and maybe I missed why was there such a drop in crew 2 in 2022? We went from 813 in crew 2 all the way down to 424 for 2023. Is there a reason in apparatus utilization total calls? It just seems like a huge...
There really isn't, and again, that's where those numbers, I would want to go back and pull the data myself, because currently in 2023, that's one of the numbers that I was looking at. They're showing 424. I'm only showing like 269.
Okay.
And that's pulling, and the system that we use, which is ESO, it's a system that a lot of companies throughout the country use. If I pull it directly from that, I don't know why there's a difference there, especially when a lot of the data we sent was via us anyway, so I'm not sure. We gave them access to it. I just don't know how they went through and extracted some of that.
Okay. And just a side note, I did think it was interesting that the Monday at noon and Tuesday at 1 was the highest call volume.
My only reasoning is most people don't really care for Mondays, and they figured they're over it already and just ready to go home.
Yeah, I just thought that was interesting.
Our busiest day technically is typically Friday, what they found, but you are right.
Yeah.
Monday at noon is the highest call volume overall.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you.
Eric, I am curious, you talked about, one of my questions was, what other ambulance tax districts are in South Dakota, and you answered that. I am curious, what other communities our size are doing, and it didn't seem like there was anything in the study that would validate communities our size or give us ideas on other thoughts that way. So I am curious on that.
I like your way of thinking because I was asked the same question from the group that I was visiting with this morning, and I sent them a list. And without being able to pull it off the top of my head, if you look at Sioux Falls, not super comparable, but they have a private ambulance agency. Rapid City runs under fire, so it's fire EMS based. Aberdeen, Watertown, Mitchell, they're all fire EMS based. Huron is a community. Spearfish is a community non-for-profit. Sturgis would be fire, but they're city-based. Other than that, you actually start getting into communities that start to get significantly smaller in size, and it just depends on what they want to do. You could look at Pierre and Brandon would be the two that kind of stick out there. You could say comparably sized similarly, but they have four or private ambulance services. You have AMR in Pierre, and then you have MedStar in Brandon.
It seems to me, in looking at this with what you've mentioned, then, even though they're, excuse me, suggesting an ambulance district, it doesn't seem like it's anything used by towns our size. I mean, these towns you mentioned aren't close in size to what Yankton is. So
No.
I'm curious why that was the only option they really offered up front, and what their research is behind using it for a community/county our size.
The communities that have gone to the tax district, they just don't have a community sizable enough to support them fiscally without going to a tax district from pulling up from the entire region, which is one of the reasons why they said if we start pulling in money from the rest of it, unless there's a reason the city of Yankton would like to partner with the county in supporting the ambulance service to offset some of the costs.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
who has been the city commission representative on this project?
That would be me.
Okay. Can you just talk about what your impressions have been of this process, Nathan?
Yeah, we've had one meeting through this process, and that was, I couldn't even tell you when it was. It was a while back.
Summer, perhaps?
Okay, so it's been a while, and at that time we talked about the district idea because we're just perplexed as to what other options might work here. And Eric, please correct me if I'm mischaracterizing anything, but yeah, based on the research that Triton had done and what we know, options are limited, so that they came to this conclusion is not a surprise to me. If you could lay out, Eric, what the roadmap ahead looks like, that would be helpful.
And you're spot on. Would have been last October, November is when we really kicked this all off and we had a formal meeting. Other than that, they've been collecting data. Last week we had kind of the final draft review of it, and other than that, they really haven't had a meeting. Once the final draft is out, which unfortunately was Friday, so that's why I wanted to get it here. We will actually present it to the county commission because they haven't had it yet either. And then if there's any questions or follow-up discussions, we can set up a meeting with the AP Triton group to have those discussions. To speak forward of where we're going, that's a great question because the county commission alone hasn't really had the opportunity to read through all of this. Though I've sent them this final draft document, I've only had a brief moment this morning to visit with a couple of them. Really, we need to see how they feel about it and where they would like to see the ambulance service go.
Excuse me, Mayor, if I may ask Eric a question. One of the things I was curious about, maybe this is something you can ask Triton about, is if they could drill down on what does a district mean for the taxpayer? You know, how do they recommend that be assessed, and what sort of dollars? Because it seemed to me they were talking not just about operating costs, but capital too, and the need to make sure capital is sustained. And, you know, that is going to be an ongoing. So it'd be interesting to know what, you know, if they could forecast out what that looks like so the county commissioners can, you know, make a determination as to whether that's something feasible or not. And what would that look like spread out amongst all the county taxpayers, and what steps the county would need to take, both commission and the public, in order to make something like that happen. I'm sure that's lined out in state statute, but I'm not familiar with that process.
I'd be more than happy to spin that question on to the AP Triton leadership group and see their thought process on it. They've obviously delved way further into that process. We even had that discussion this morning amongst us of, do you try to do an opt-out versus a tax district, and how does that look? Just because it's kind of foreign to everybody who's been involved so far. But I will spin that question out once I have an answer. Hopefully in the next day or two, I'd be able to pass it along to all of you.
Just wanted to mention to Eric, on page 4, we are the Yankton City Commission, not the Yankton City Council. And my name and Brian's name are misspelled, just to clarify that.
I will follow up with them on that. For full transparency, Amy sent out a message for me really quick last week as I received a portion of this and passed it along, and it was brought to my attention. I'm one of those guys that I kind of skip through past some of that stuff, and I want to get to the meat and potatoes of it, and there were a couple other typos that were in there that I will make sure that are addressed.
Are there any other, yes.
I see we have John Marquardt in the audience. John, is there anything you would like to address with us while you're here?
John Marquardt, Yankton County Commission Chairman. Eric did a wonderful job getting this presentation put together, but I guess the reason that I'm here and the reason that we decided that we needed to do this study originally, and I appreciate the city of Yankton co-chairing or be involved with this with us. So the thing of it is this is a service that, in my mind, we need to continue to provide to the citizens of not only the city of Yankton, but the county of Yankton and the surrounding residents. And coherently between the two of us, I think we need to figure out a way to do this. Now, I'm not asking the city of Yankton to come to the table with a percentage of shares or whatever, but obviously the study shows that over 90% of the calls that we make as an ambulance service is providing service to the city of Yankton. Now, how do you feel that what do you feel that you need to be obligated to some of that system? The county feels that we're providing a service to Yankton County, and obviously the insurance companies, Medicare, Medicaid, they're only going to pay 38% of the bills that the expenses that we incur. So I'm not here asking for you to put a number on it. I'm just asking for your support for what we're doing for Yankton County and the city of Yankton also. What that may be, we don't know. That's why the study was done, and that's why we're here this evening to ask for your support, I guess, and we can have meetings in the future to come up. Yankton County Ambulance Service is not something that we're going to just say, well, we're not going to do it anymore. We have to provide that service to our citizens, whether they live within the city limits, whether they're in the county. So, but I think as a group, Yankton County, the city of Yankton, I think we need to come up with a solution to the problem. And the problem is that the ambulance service right now is costing our community in the neighborhood of $700,000 to $800,000. That's taxpayer money. Now, is that service something that we need to provide? And whether it costs us, we don't know what is going to happen 10 years from now. But the numbers show that it's just going to increase. So can we, as a group of citizens here on the board that we're elected to figure out, can we come up with a solution to make sure that the ambulance service, we're providing a service, so it doesn't have to make money. I'm not saying we have to make money on the service, but can we provide a service that we can all appreciate and live with? Because we have special people like Eric and the paramedics that are employed and EMTs and those kind of people. They also have to make a living to provide that service. That's our position. I hate to say that the county, can we continue to support it at the rate that it's going right now? So.
Sorry, may I ask another question? Commissioner Marquardt or Eric, one of the curiosities I had about, as we started off or launched this, was I read a little bit about some other places in the country where they're kind of changing their EMS and creating a hybrid system where there is some traditional EMS service and then some maybe what I would call preventative care, mental health care support. I'm not searching for not finding the word I'm searching for, but sort of a hybrid service where there's maybe some of the volume of call doesn't require a paramedic to be on scene, but maybe requires some maintenance from somebody that maybe our dispatch center knows or your department knows. And I don't know, did AP Triton come here and see how we're running our service, and did they evaluate what we're doing and what kind of population? Because I do feel like Yankton has, maybe this isn't unique to Yankton, but some segment of the population, according to the staff that I speak to at dispatch, that maybe could use some of that type of care and wouldn't necessarily need Eric to show up in the middle of the night.
Sure, and I don't believe that AP Triton actually came here to estimate or investigate those kind of issues, but I believe that Eric can speak on some issues that he has brought on board since he's been here to kind of deal with some of the situations like what you're talking about.
So having friends in EMS all over the country, I get a unique perspective. I have a good friend that works in West Lafayette, Indiana, and their 911 agency, Phoenix Solutions, actually just gave up their entire 911 contract, and they went to a community health worker base. It's actually better money. The people are happier. They're not answering calls at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. You can work with insurance companies. You can get reimbursements on it. Now, having conversations when I first came in, it is a source that I'd like to provide or like to see provided within Yankton County. And I've had several entities from Yankton County when I talked about this that were like, this would be a good asset. first and foremost, we still have to make sure that we're answering the 911 calls, and I have to make sure I have the right staff to run that leg of the organization. It's not going to fiscally completely sustain the system overall, but it would make it a little more robust.
But the Triton didn't look at that, though.
I was going to say, piggybacking on that, I think of calls like lift assist, which I would consider more of a non-emergency. Did they ever look at emergency versus non-emergency? And I'm just not aware of the language. Not specifically per call, like how many car accidents or how many this, how many that, but more of the, as Amy said, maybe more the non-emergency versus a trained paramedic. Did
Well,
they even
and-
look at that difference?
They did, and it gets to be a slippery slope. So the city of Pittsburgh, for example, the city of Pittsburgh a little over a year ago went to a tiered system. And so as somebody would call 911, they tier it depending on what the nature of the call is. Well, anything from a Delta level down, which would be similar to your lift assist, you're going to wait an hour for an ambulance. They only had 3 complaints in the city of Pittsburgh in a year. And that was from 3 first responders who showed up on scene wondering why they're waiting an hour for an ambulance. None of the citizens complained about it. The interesting thing and the unique dynamic here, we're used to when you call for help, people show up immediately. That would not go over very well. But in that circumstance, yeah, there's a certain portion of what we do that we could look at as truly non-emergent, and we can send people over. You still have to have the staffing available. We just use our first out staff for that. And if you want, I can always get the statistics directly from our staff and break it down. I don't know if it's specifically broke down in any of the categories that they have, but it can always be broke down.
Perfect, thank you. I was just curious, because I know, obviously, I hear quite a few ambulance calls, and I know they're not all have to be full-time paramedics to help with some of those.
And I think that's some places maybe that the city police force or the fire people could assist in some of those calls. I don't know if a lift assist is absolutely necessary that we send an ambulance out there. Maybe a local police officer, especially if it's within the city limits, maybe and maybe there's specific training that we need to do for some of the police officers to handle those kind of calls. And that's some of the things where I think collaboration between the city and the county, we could get together and work on some of that kind of stuff.
All right, I got further questions. I was just going to say, anything else, because I know we're running out of time here before we move on.
I just wanted to reiterate, it was the same thing that I said at the last meeting. Everybody that is inside of city limits is a member of the county. I just want to make sure that that's clear, so it doesn't turn into city versus county, because everyone that is in the city is also part of the county. I come the 30th, I'll go down to the courthouse and I can show you the line items between those things. So I just want to reiterate that. And then also, we did not have anyone from Triton ever come to Yankton. That's correct? Correct?
That is correct. We had nobody from AP Triton set boots on ground within the city of Yankton to have eyes on the agency itself.
Okay, thank you.
So if it is decided that we want to pursue a district that would take an election, is that something that you might want to try to pursue this year yet? Or is that something that we could sustain where we're at for another election next year or thereafter?
Yes, I believe that we would want to try to advertise and educate the community to get this on the ballot in November. There's no way we can get it on the ballot for the primary now. I personally think that education and that is going to work to a disadvantage to us to get it on this November's budget or ballot. The reason that we're here now with discussing with the city is we're going to need your assistance to educate the people that live in Yankton County, in the city limits of Yankton, to if we get it on the ballot, to either support it or not support it. My biggest fear is if we rush to get it on this current year's general election, we're not going to have enough time to educate enough people to make it work. And it's going to be a fairly large percentage of property tax increase. So, but at the same token, we need to educate people that, you know, this is a service that you're going to provide to the whole county and also other constituents. So I think we want to try to get it on this year's election, but at the same token, we need your support to help advertise it and educate the people. So our objective is to put it on, to get petitions out and get it on this November's ballot, so.
I would suggest, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry. Do we know what that looks like, though?
I have no clue.
That's the crux of the issue, I think.
And the thing is from the very beginning, my understanding was AP Triton was going to help us educate the constituents in the county and in the city to put it on the ballot. So that's the next step. We need to talk to them about what they're going to do to help us do that.
Because what I saw from this document was not necessarily what I was expecting to be seen. So if there's more, I would encourage that. That'd be wonderful.
Certainly.
All right, for an essence of time, because we have another subject tonight, I would encourage, obviously understanding, Eric, you shared that this hasn't been fully presented to the county commission yet. They haven't had a discussion. So I would suggest that after that discussion takes place, we do have folks appointed to help through this, that I would suggest that you get a meeting scheduled with those folks who are representing the city commission. So we have that line of communication open as we move forward.
So it's going to be on our agenda for our next county commission meeting. So would some of you want to be involved in that at our county commission meeting so we can make sure that everyone is involved also?
I think, in essence of time, I won't ask for that tonight. I'll have the city manager communicate with the commission and see if there are folks available
Perfect.
with
Thank
that
you.
date, that have it open, and if they're interested and able to attend. And we'll
you.
get that collected and sent to you. Thank you. Thanks
Mayor-
for coming in tonight.
Mayor Moser, could I
Yes.
add one thing?
Yeah.
Would it be wise for us to come up with some type of questions, if there's specific things we want to ask AP Triton before it comes back to us, that we maybe have a list of other things that we're thinking about?
Sure. I mean, I think since we didn't get a whole lot of time to review this in depth, I think before our meeting tonight, if any of you city commissioners have questions, maybe filter those through Amy, who can coordinate a list and then get that shared.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet, Commissioner Villanueva. All right, with that, then, I believe, Todd, who's presenting the SAC? Oh, Luke. Sorry, I didn't even see you sitting back there with Chief. Luke and Lisa are even. No wonder Todd was like totally avoiding eye contact with me. He's like the kid sitting in a classroom going, please don't call on me, please don't call on me, please don't call on me. All right, sorry about that, Luke and Lisa. The floor is yours.
And it worked for him.
It did. Sorry, I should know better.
Yeah, let that
Luke,
be-
I was a past teacher,
Let that be
right?
noted on the record. So we're going to kind of be presenting two sides to this annual report that you've got in front of you there. There's kind of an operational side, which I'm gonna speak a little more heavily on the operational side of things. Lisa is going to speak a little more heavily on the finance side of things. In this report, you'll notice at the back, appendixes A, B, C, D, and E. We are going to avoid those for the sake of time tonight, because I fear that if we really try to dive into a plethora of data in those spreadsheets tonight, we will end up overwhelmed and out of time, and probably just kind of frustrated that we didn't get to where we wanted to land. So they are there for your sake, and we will touch on the information that is provided in there. But I would encourage you, if, as we are speaking on operations and finances, if you have clarifications that are needed in those appendixes in the back, A, B, C, D, and E, you will most likely find data that will help to bring a little clarification or resolution to some of the questions that you might have. Dwayne is going to kind of drive us here through this report. It is in front of you right there, but what I'm going to do is try my best to summarize some of the operational information that's in here. And I noted on here, before we get too far into this, I do want to just mention the fact, so there's a little bit of background. This annual report was birthed out of a SAC task force that was formed as discussions about the Summit Activity Center move forward out of 2022 and into 2023. Task force was formed that included primary citizens of Yankton. It included city staff, Todd and myself. It included school district personnel. At that time, it was Jason Beets as finance manager, who is now no longer in that position, so we don't have him to really hone in on any of that information. And then we also had a couple city commissioners that were part of that. So we had a diverse team, and one of the after effects of that was we had determined that this annual report would be something that would be presented yearly. So we are doing our due diligence. Out of the SAC task force meetings, there was an ask that we would provide an annual report yearly. This is the rationale and reasoning why we are doing that as part of the discussion from the task force. And I think that was worth noting. I'm going to briefly just go through some of the goals and operational items here. You'll see there's a page that lists task force goals, and Dwayne has that up right now. Almost everything that I'm going to speak about here in this report could be lumped into one of these kind of primary areas here of improving our operations. We do want to grow memberships. Obviously, that's an important component of revenue. We do want better promotion of the facility, and that's going to speak to marketing, that's going to speak to advertising, it's going to speak to just overall first impressions. And then balancing affordability, which is, as we know, is a slippery slope in trying to provide accessibility to our community and also try to be fiscally sound in terms of managing finances and thinking about the bottom line. So as we go through here, almost everything that's going to be discussed will primarily fall into one of those four areas there. On the next pages are what we are listing as milestones. And again, out of the SAC task force group, we were presented with a lot of information that we were to act on. Most of that information I'm going to talk about now of things. These are all incremental changes that have primarily been made in the last year. So as we go through these milestones, I'm just going to quickly summarize them. If you do have questions, feel free to make notes. If we don't have time for discussion on them tonight, I would welcome you, if you have further clarification needed, email me, send me your thoughts, questions, and I'll be happy to respond to you in a timely manner. The milestones on there, fitness classes, and that's one of the first listed items on there. We now offer 14 fitness classes at the Summit Activity Center. All of those classes are taught by qualified instructors. Many of the classes were discussed during our SAC task force in terms of would it be possible to provide fill in the blank. So we've worked hard in the last year here to up our offerings, which, as we know, during COVID essentially disappeared. And coming out of COVID in 2020, there was a slow rebound from there, but we've worked incredibly hard last year here to get to a point where we now offer 14 fitness classes. Those classes are taught at various times during the day, from early morning to mid-morning, over lunch break, and a multiple number of evening classes as well to cater to our community and the working folks in Yankton and a variety of demographics. Of note is that our attendance for fitness classes this year was 11,224. Which is a great number. That proves to us that people are interested in fitness classes and the offerings that were provided. Has there been bigger numbers in years prior? Absolutely. That can be found in the data in the back. But of noting is that this is one of our higher years on record of attendance in fitness classes. Only currently, the highest attendance year, just for clarification, there was 14,973, just to give you an idea of where we've been and where we currently are right now. Next item on there was the YC alumni space. And if you've been in the Summit Activity Center, you know that has been vacated. They have moved out of there. Yankton College has moved there. I would say their memorabilia out of that space. And we have, in working with the school district, we, on the city side, have taken that space and we've transformed it into what we now call our fitness space. We have painted in there. We have added amenities in there. We have added workout equipment in there. This is a dedicated fitness space that's utilized for a number of classes that require just they require just some different uses of space that can't be out in open air as an upstairs in our fitness area. There's a comfort level in being in a space where you aren't under the scrutiny of others as people are working out in there. We also have some classes like yoga that just do not, would not work very good in other spaces in that facility there, just for the sake of privacy. And I guess the whole point is to quiet yourself. So that's a place that works there. Next on that milestone list is pickleball. And as we know, pickleball is a hot topic that we will continue to discuss in weeks to come and months to come. But we now offer pickleball play at the Summit Activity Center. This was an ask, and we provided it. Pickleball is now available 7 days a week. We have 3 courts of use. It's available Monday through Friday for longer hours. It's available on the weekends as well, just a little bit of shorter time period. And we now offer Wednesday night pickleball play again. So there's a variety of options for our community of Yankton that are pickleball players. We have heard their asks, and we have done our best to meet their needs. Understand we are somewhat strapped in terms of what we can do in that space, though. That auxiliary gym is not exclusively ours. We do share that with Yankton High School. That's part of a joint use agreement, which is a entirely different monster that we're not going to get into tonight. But because of some of the dynamics of that joint use agreement, we are limited in how much and when we can utilize that space. Next to the milestones is expanded hours out of the Summit Activities Task Force. There was a request that we expand our hours, and we have done that. Our new winter hours have our facility open from 5 a.m. in the morning until 10 p.m. at night, Monday through Thursday, Fridays from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., and weekends from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We've also extended our summer hours by an hour as well, but the summer hours also do have a little shorter operational time because it is summer, and we know that a variety of citizens in Yankton choose to do physical activity outside in the summer, and to be cognizant of that fact and try to be a little more fiscally responsible, we do not maintain the same winter hours as we do summer hours in that facility, but we have extended hours in both of those arenas of winter and summer. Next to the milestones was fitness equipment, and again, out of the Summit Activity Center Task Force, we received a variety of requests for incremental changes and upgrades to that space. We have done a number of upgrades to fitness equipment in there, including a new leg press machine. We have new benches that are upstairs. We've added and provided new dumbbells and dumbbell racks. We've upgraded the Smith machine up there. We have 2 new rowing machines. We have 2 new assault bikes. And on the way are 2 new belt-driven aquatic treadmills. They are not here yet, but they will be here shortly. So we've added a number of fitness options that have catered to a number of people, and we've tried to do our best to take input about what our community wants and needs, and then do our best to fund some of those projects. Unfortunately, it's impossible to fund all those projects. There is a budgetary process, and there are limitations to how much equipment, when, and what equipment can be purchased at a time, but we've done our best to incrementally prioritize equipment and add that into that space.
Dwayne, can you flip to the next slide? He's on the next one. Thank you.
There we go. Next is marketing, and our marketing efforts have improved in 2023. We now have ongoing marketing that happens 12 months a year. If you listen to the radio, you have probably heard a variety of our Summit Activity Center advertisements. Those are updated monthly and have airtime that occurs for 12 months a year. We've also included more digital media advertisements. We've done a little bit of work with Every Door Direct mailings, those EDDM cards. We've actually sent some of those out within our community. One of those went last year that offered citizens, anybody in Yankton city limits, received an EDDM that offered them basically a free pass. Come try the Summit Center. So we've done a variety of marketing and advertising efforts here in 2023. Next is school security upgrades, and working with the Yankton School District, we have installed, well, I shouldn't say we did not install. A construction company came in and installed security vestibules. This was done to help us better control traffic both in and out of the school there. We know school safety is a very high priority right now. We also understand that having our facility better managed in terms of who's coming in and who's accessing that facility was a priority for us. So this was a measure to help both of us out. Those vestibules are downstairs and also upstairs at all of our access points that you could potentially move from the Summit Activity Center into Yankton High School space. Expanded membership options is next on there. And again, there is documents that exist. I'm not going to get into all of those documents right now for the sake of time, but we have changed our membership offerings and packages. We now offer, we're not calling it a family membership, but we provide a membership plan that caters to families. We are still the most affordable fitness option in town. We've been able to stay true to our mission statement of doing that, but we have expanded our offerings not only from annual memberships, and you can kind of a la carte how you want that built, from a single to a couple, all the way up to a family with 6 kids, should you choose to build a membership that way. We also offer day passes at an adult rate, we offer day passes at a youth rate, and we offer a discounted youth membership as well. Memberships can also be purchased on a monthly basis if you choose not to have an annual membership, but there is a financial advantage to purchasing an annual membership, a cost savings of approximately $40 a year by buying an annual as opposed to buying those monthly, those 12 monthly installments. Next is attendance, and we do track attendance for not only Summit Activity Center users, but also Great Life. As you know, we are a facility that honors Great Life usage in there. We are an affiliate partner with them. This year is the second highest attendance year on the books at the Summit Activity Center. As wrapping up 2023, our attendance records indicated 77,886 check-ins, second only to 2013, 78,306. 2023 was 420 check-ins, shy of the highest attendance year in our Summit Activity Center history. Through April of 2024, this calendar year, we are on track. We are currently 17% higher than 2023 of last year. If those numbers continue to trend in the direction they're going, 2024 will be our highest attendance year on record at the Summit Activity Center. That's a noteworthy milestone. Again, remember these numbers. There's a lot of talking points in terms of COVID, in terms of our relationship with Great Life, in terms of Great Life coming to town. There is a lot of other talking points related to memberships that, again, we won't really touch on all of that tonight, but again, if there's time at a later date and you've got questions about that, I would be happy to visit with you about some of those other variables that play into that. All right, I'm going to quickly is there any questions operational side that I can answer quickly here before I let Lisa dive into finances?
I would just like to make a comment, if I could. I just want to say thank you to the staff that has, all of you that have put together these classes. I have heard so many great things and feedback from people about the classes that are being provided, and I know people really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, with that, I'm going to let Lisa take over the remainder of that report there.
Don't leave too far. You can tell the Parks Department's been pretty busy. So looking at the SAC revenue, I'll keep this short and sweet. So revenue did go up quite significantly this year in 2023. They made up a little over $419,000. Expenses, total operating expenses were $793,463. It is a little bit higher than the prior year. However, there's been a lot more going on. So next we'll go into capital. We do have as Luke mentioned, an agreement with the school district. So that is provided as the last page of your packet. That is the 2024 adopted budget and the capital improvement plan for the next 5 years with the school district. In 2023, capital was up a little bit at a little over $392,000. We did go over a little over budget, but that was because there was unforeseen requests to purchase more, do a little bit more. Bear in mind that capital is funded from our 506 second penny sales tax fund. So that is why if you look at a 203 fund expenditure report on our end, you may not see all the exact details. That's because it is funded primarily from a different source of revenue. Major projects, was the tennis court conversions, fitness equipment, drinking fountain, and other school improvements. So when you look at 2022 versus 2023, the financial gain, the SAC did see a gain of $9,972 in 2023. So revenue did show that it did increase. Taking all the expenses into account, including the capital, you'll see the 2023 total operating loss was a negative $373,818. With capital, that was in the hole a little over $6,500,000. The general fund transfer in 2023 was.
Sorry, can I have Dwayne flip? I think he's on a different slide. If I'm looking at it, it looks like we're on the net loss,
Yes.
including, thank you.
So it looks like the general fund transfer in 2023 is $390,132. That did go down because we did see more revenue in 2023. 2022, that was a little over $452,000. So again, increased operations generate higher attendance, higher revenue, but more cost. So next page, you'll go on to the funding. So that just kind of gives a good breakdown of where is the money coming from. That's something finance looks at. We do have our second penny tax, which again is for capital. The general fund helps supplement the shortage. And then of course, you have your SAC revenue. That's money coming directly in for the Summit Activity Center. So the general fund in 2023 did supplement 32.5% of operations and capital. If you look at the next page, because I know we're in kind of a short time crunch here and I want to get to some questions. In 2023, overall, the SAC task force goals have been met. We saw an increase in memberships, attendance, marketing, revenue. However, that also increased in expenditures, and we did have a net loss of $951. So you'll kind of see there's an exhibit A, B. The exhibit D is a really good profit and loss summary. So that really gives a good details of what are we spending money on, what money are we bringing in, and it provides a lot of extra statistics that gives a little bit more option. As Luke said, there's a lot more detail we could go into here, but I will applaud the Parks Department has taken a lot of the direction from the task force to meet the goals and overall result in a net gain for 2023 of a little under $10,000.
Awesome. I'll echo that. A couple of thanks there, obviously, to the task force. Again, I think I've thanked them publicly for all the time they put in putting these thoughts together. As Luke shared, it was a pretty comprehensive group that met to really think about what could happen there, and it's really exciting to see a lot of that implemented. I guess my question, whether it be you or Luke, I do know we moved a lot of the SAC discussion to the Parks Advisory Board. Just kind of wondering what's next, what's coming next and what's on the horizon. Having this report, now what are some of the goals that you're going to continue to move towards?
I actually might interrupt Luke on that one a little bit, because I think we might have to volley some of the next steps back to you, commissioners, because we're going into budget season. So that's part of why we wanted to get this in front of you. So we're going to go into budget 2025, and we're looking at a couple of scary things on the horizon in terms of not certain where we're ending up with sales tax. And Lisa showed you here that some of the SAC is funded by sales tax. So we have to take that into consideration. I think the good news is to say that the things that the task force brought forward worked for our facility, and that's great. And then we also have to see about how we can continue to keep that momentum going and still mitigate costs. So I think we're going to have some good discussion when we get to our budget about, where that balance is. I'm guessing now, if I hand it over to Luke, he's going to say, summer rec is coming, so there's going to be a focus on the summer recreation programs, and then moving into a more active aquatics, I guess, program once the Huther opens on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, that would be correct. So, as you know, we will have a little lull in the action here over the course of summer. While budget season is going, is a great time for us to kind of sit back and try make some decisions about what the next year needs to look like in that facility there. Obviously, some of those decisions can't be made at this point because we're not ready to make some of those decisions yet, because budgets need to be determined, and dollars that are going to be allocated will definitely play into what type of decisions are going to be made. It should be known we have not completed every item of the task force recommendations. There are other items out there that have not been completed, and some of the reason those items haven't been completed are essentially exactly what we're talking about now. They could and would require extra capital. They could and would require additional space that is a little bit unknown right now because of some of the work we're doing with the Yankton School District Joint Use Agreement. So there are some other factors in play between budget and between our ability to know the certainty of some of those spaces where we are in a bit of a holding pattern on some of those other items that were addressed in the Summit Task Force recommendations as well.
Great. In honoring, yes, Commissioner Hanoff.
Well, I just wanted to say to Todd and to Luke and all the city staff, congratulations on all the achievements that you've accomplished here. I did have one question. The $765,000, that was the total loss with capital. Does that include the school share of the capital costs?
No, that does not.
So that, just to kind of keep it from a city perspective, I wanted to point that out.
Yep.
Thank you. Great job.
All right. Well, I appreciate
Thank you.
both of you presenting this tonight. I love the format it's in. Not only is it very colorful, but I think it's easy to read. Has this been posted anywhere? So if anybody in the public wants to access this or be able to read through it, do we have it somewhere?
I believe it is on our commission webpage under the agenda, work session agenda packet,
Perfect.
I believe.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that. Just want to be transparent with the information coming in front of the commission. And I saw some of the media taking pictures of the screen, so I wanted to make sure they knew it was online as well. With that, we have no other business in front of the city commission for the work session, so I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Anybody abstaining? All right, we are adjourned. I wanted to try to give everybody 5 minutes. We hit it with 4, so I think we're doing pretty good. We'll start the regular city commission meeting in 4 minutes. I can go to the bathroom.